Hey everyone, Jim Coventry from RotoWire here. The big five takeaways of week 8. Number 5, the breakouts. We finally had that long awaited Tony Pollard start, and he did not disappoint a bit. Now, I did point out in my pregame show on Sirius XM on Sunday, I thought his workload would be very similar to the workload he saw with Elliott, though. I don't think they want to overuse him. And actually, I was right on that. His snap share was like 53%. His carries were about the same, but boy, was he so explosive. So it was just weird because again, same workload, and Malik Davis saw plenty of work. So that was interesting, but it was just great to see Tony Pollard had that huge game, 3 touchdowns, over 150 yards. Now, the Bears defense wasn't one that was likely to give him many issues. The Bears have not had a tough schedule this year, but let's give Tony Pollard all the credit he deserves. He looked amazing. Dallas looked amazing. You take who's on the schedule and you play them and you do what you do there. But it was just great to see that. Now, the question, though, becomes this. Zeke Elliott, I love Zeke Elliott. I think he's one of the best guys at following blocks, running plays as they're designed. But I tell you what, it's just the explosiveness that Pollard adds to the offense. Now, I assume based on Pollard's usage in this game that Elliott retains the same role he had when he returns, but it'll be interesting to see. I would like to see a little bit more Pollard in there just because it makes that offense so much more difficult to defend. Justin Fields, and I'm still with breakouts. I consider it a breakout game for Justin Fields. I know he's had good games before. In the game against the Patriots, I really felt like the Bears just blindsided him. They opened up an element to the game plan they hadn't used before, and I don't think the Patriots had any clue it was coming. But now they were playing the Dallas defense, and that was a completely different beast. All the speed and the pass rush on that defense, and I think, okay, well, Justin Fields is going to come right back down to earth. Not so much. I mean, fairly efficient through the air, pre-designing reads for him, letting him be weaponized as a runner. And from a fantasy standpoint, he is getting it done. He doesn't have weapons to throw to. I love Darnell Mooney, but, you'd like to have way more than that. And so, honestly, from a fantasy perspective, I'm going to struggle to put him outside of the top 12 quarterbacks most weeks because right now he's ratcheting up that running ability. And I say this every year, multiple times. Nothing's changed. Tim Tebow was a QB1 and he couldn't throw the football, but he ran, and Justin Fields is running. All right, last one of the breakouts. I know the matchups against the Buccaneers and the Falcons were far from intimidating, but D'Onta Foreman has had 2 great weeks of production. Now, he showed last year, taking over for the Titans and Derrick Henry when he was hurt, he showed that he was a really solid player. He was like 4.3 yards a carry. He was consistently powerful and decisive in his running style, a number of big plays. And, he obviously outshined Chuba Hubbard in the game last week. Hubbard did well as well, but man, Foreman got the lead role with Hubbard out, and wow, Foreman completely got it done. 26 carries, that was amazing, and then 118 rushing yards, same as last week. He did have much fewer carries, but he found the end zone 3 times. And now Foreman, it's going to be tough for me to put him outside of the top 20 most weeks when I'm doing my running back rankings, and he could be higher than that. Like I said, he's going to get opportunity. The Panthers look like a scrappy team. They'll probably hang in there. I know Hubbard will be back, but I think Foreman is going to be really hard for them to set down, for the most part. He's going to be the lead there pretty much sure. All right, number 4, the disappointment. So you've heard me throwing shade, unfortunately, on Darrell Henderson for weeks, and it wasn't because of me. It was like I kept finding situations and quotes over the years. Sean McVay does not want to use Darrell Henderson in any type of a volume role. He's mentioned for years about needing to keep him healthy, And so the last game before the bye, I'm said, well, Malcolm, even Akers was deactivated. And a lot of people were excited about Darrell Henderson. I go, watch it. They signed Malcolm Brown off the street. He's going to get significant carries. And people were like, seriously? 7 carries. And then this week, Ronnie Rivers. Like who? Ronnie Rivers. Rivers and Malcolm Brown had more work than Henderson in this one. Henderson doesn't have a game with over 50 rushing yards this season, single-digit touches in 4 of his last 5 games. I mean, at this point, desperation flex. You're hoping he catches a couple passes, but It's just whatever it is. He's a talented player, but it's clear Sean McVay wants no part of making him a part of the offense. All right, Jonathan Taylor, he just doesn't look right. I saw him on the sideline, shoe off, ankle getting wrapped, and that spoke volumes. The ankle's not right. He may have had a setback on it as well. He's not 100% right now. And he had a 27-yard run in the game, which was great, but most of his runs tackled at or near the line. The offensive line, I know, has a lot of issues. There are two huge liabilities in that line. That's problematic. They were hoping Sam Ehlinger would get some running lanes or some RPO. They ran a little RPO, but otherwise, you know what, Taylor right now, I mean, obviously he's got a floor when he plays, but certainly not with the draft pick investment. You weren't looking for a floor play. You were looking for a ceiling play every week. But you got to start him. You got to start him. And I don't know what to say in terms of trading him. I don't think there's going to be much of a trade market because, you know what, you give him up. What are you going to get in return? So that's a tough one. All right, last one of this section. Sometimes a game, you just have to throw them in the garbage. That Raiders game to New Orleans, the Raiders have been a weird team this year. I still don't get it how you invest in Derek Carr, Devontae Adams, Darren Waller, and then you turn down the fifth-year option on Josh Jacobs, and then you decide, you're 2-5 team. You decide we're going to run the ball. We're going to let Josh Jacobs be the engine of the team. Financially, long term, it didn't make an ounce of sense. Josh McDaniels, I wouldn't be stunned if he was out of a job at the end of this year. Just misappropriation of resources. And I know Jacobs was beautiful. Jacobs played 3 amazing games. Fantasy managers loved it all the way to the bank. But the Raiders aren't winning games. And ultimately, you invested in a passing attack in a passing league, and they haven't figured out how to unlock Devontae Adams. And to me, that's criminal. But that's just me. Anyway, aside from the Devontae Adams, it's the third time this year he's been 36 yards or fewer. And aside from his game against the Chiefs, he hasn't hit 20 PPR points since week 1. Now, I got a few of the players wrong that I said, don't take in the first round, take him in the second. Adams was one. He was the one I got right. His second round pick would have been fine, but he's not a first round. The situation change worried me a little bit. But, hey, he's an auto starting seasonal leagues, but you're not trusting him in DFS as an upside play right now. All right, number 3, the mixed messages. Great to see DeAndre Swift back on the field, but the usage was frustrating. He salvaged his fantasy day. He caught a touchdown pass, so he had 5 catches. So PPR, he got a little bit done, but just 10 catches. He missed all that time with the shoulder injury. It seemed like he was ready to come back, and then they were just probably waiting until he was 100%, make sure he's a full go. Must not have been. Or they were worried about conditioning or something. But I wonder if the team is starting to say, you know what, this guy gets hurt all the time. Maybe we need to monitor his usage and maybe we need to limit his. I'm not saying that is what they're doing, but it might be more responsible to the organization to keep him healthy as opposed to ramping up his workload and getting him hurt. My RotoWire teammate Mario Puig follows the college game real well, and said Swift was banged up in college a lot of the time. So this is not really gone away. But hopefully it's foolish. Hopefully I'm foolish in what I'm saying, and hopefully the team is like, no, Swift just eased in. Love to see him getting 15 touches a game. He's an elite talent. All right, another mixed message. Zach Wilson, 350 yards and 2 touchdowns. Wow. The disconnect between fantasy and reality could not be bigger. Wilson killed the Jets. Killing drives, back-breaking interceptions, poor decisions. Wow. Garrett Wilson fortunately came up big. If people started him, they were rewarded so well for that move. But otherwise, look, if the Jets don't go to Joe Flacco as their quarterback, it's going to be tough to trust anybody in the receiving part of that offense the rest of the way. And I know they had a great game from Conklin. Love Conklin too. But that team, they have a chance to do something, to make the playoffs. And with their defense, they could make a little noise. I don't know how much they can win a game. We can win a game, depending on who they face. But to call for Joe Flacco. But yes, they need Joe Flacco. All right, number 2. And now the huge fantasy day players. If there was a play of the week, and I gave 2 props, I should have just gave 1. It should have been Derrick Henry against the Texans. That was one I gave everybody, but the second one, Mostert came up short. If he had that last carry, they would have given him. He might have gotten over. Sorry about that. Process. It's all about the process, though. I lay out the case, It's not, you can't control what happened, but Henry was never going wrong. The prop I bet was 99.5 yards. And I looked back 2 seasons because last year he didn't play them due to the injury. He was over 212 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns in each game in 2020. Somebody pointed out today the time prior he played the Texans, he was over that number. So according to that, that was the 4th time, counting yesterday, he had over 200 yards and 2 touchdowns against them. But he had that prop covered with 4 minutes and 20 seconds left in the half. Insane. And, and I, try to bet smart where it's the same on each, bet. But, man, I should have made an exception there. I should have said, you know what, we got to make a max play on this, and I should have done that. I didn't do it. All right. The Eagles and the Steelers. So I'm previewing this game earlier in the week. And what I'm saying is I'm previewing this. And between the different shows I was on and XM, I was like, if I'm the Eagles and I'm game planning for the Steelers are pretty good run defense. And I know the Eagles could beat anybody with their offense. But I'm saying this is a game. You just bludgeon them with A.J. Brown. And I'm glad the coaching staff saw it the way I did, because it was one of those games where this is the mismatch. And wow, was it ever. 3 touchdowns in the first half. And there, if you didn't see the game, there was a shoestring tackle in the second half. He was pulling away from the defense. It would have been touchdown number 4. But, the problem with the offense in Philly, though, is that there's not a problem for them. NFL, they're a beautiful offense. They're going to keep scoring a lot of points. But for fantasy, the problem is what players are going to pop up each week. You start them all, because you understand they all have upside. Obviously, Brown showed it, and we've seen Devontae Smith have it. Dallas Goedert has it. Miles Sanders. They all have it. And obviously, Jalen Hurts. But you just have to start them every week, all of them. And when you have the down week, you're going to have to live with it, because you don't want to miss the big week. And then the next one, Tua Tagovailoa. And I had mentioned this in my pregame discussions too, that I felt like Tua was knocking off rust last week. I felt like he just, that first game back, he had missed some time, had a couple concussions. He just looked off. He was throwing behind people. It wasn't so good. But, man, they were playing the Lions. And the Lions, Aiden Hutchinson's been nice, but there is like no pressure rate consistently coming out of Detroit. And if you give Tua Tagovailoa time to throw, these massively speedy receivers, and some zone defense, he's very accurate. It's a recipe for greatness. Now, he underthrew some passes that Tyreek Hill made plays on, but at the end of the day, he's Tyreek Hill. He's able to do that. So, but that offense, when they face teams with low pressure rates, they are going to just eat them up. I think the teams with pressure rates, we're going to see a lot of hit or miss with that offense, but just good to know that, we can probably foretell a lot of these when we break down games earlier in the week. Now, last one. Number 1, Christian McCaffrey. So we saw it a full week with the offense. Just amazing how Kyle Shanahan, we all knew what would happen, how he'd integrate him into the game plan. See, what Shanahan wants to do, he started it with Deebo Samuel last year. He wants these guys who are positionless. The defense can't account for him, but you can't just do it like with one positionless dude. If it's one, you look around, all right, well, we know that George Kittle, it's A or B. We know Brandon Ayuk, it's A or B. But now, if we get McCaffrey and Deebo on the field, we have no idea how they'll be deployed. It puts ultimate stress on a defense because there's 2 players you cannot account for. And then you could do more with George Kittle. You could do more with Brandon Ayuk. I don't mind that Jimmy Garoppolo's a quarterback here, because what we saw yesterday, when the play gets deep into after the snap and it's going long, that outlet being McCaffrey, that saves Garoppolo. Instead of Garoppolo throwing something up into traffic and making a mistake, it's very easy to find a McCaffrey, or when he's healthy, a Deebo in the short area, because they can make a ton happen after a play breaks down. So very, very amazing and exciting. I cannot wait to see when this offense is full health and full flowing. Shanahan is going to have some crazy fun. And when that defense gets healthy, right now, and we, I don't know, they already lost Mosley for the season, their cornerback, but I think they're going to get, their defensive linemen have been went out to 2 tackles for a while. I think when they get everybody healthy, I think that this team could win the Super Bowl. And I don't think I'm going on a limb, because Shanahan those weapons are going to be unstoppable. Want to get out of here, but I got a couple quick ones here. Who would have thought Don Taylor was going to be a dud? I know. it is a crazy season. And then Brian says Hurts and Jacob and AJ Brown completely destroy. Yeah, you destroy your opponent. Yep. Yeah, and McCaffrey. Wow, easy victory. Happy for you. Very, very nice, Brian. And then Jacob, 10-man, half PPR. If Cooks doesn't get traded, you drop him for trade numbers. You know what? Cook showed a little sign of life yesterday, and I think there's been a lot of worries around the team that he was going to go, and maybe that was the reason why things weren't going so well. So I still think you hang on to Brandon Cooks. I think that team may get, if they get past the trade line, deadline, they keep him. I think, and then Burks, I'm worried because Tannehill doesn't look great right now, and if they go to Malik Willis, he can't throw the football, and I think they're just going to run. So I think ultimately Cooks hasn't been good. But I think that once they get past the trade deadline, they might be able to sigh of relief and think, okay, we got normalcy. And then Brian Titan, yeah. No, you're not a dummy. You're not a dummy. I got to get a couple get out of here. I prefer Swift or Taylor. Well, again, I'm worried with Swift if they're going to monitor his workload, but I still think I'd rather at this point have Swift because Taylor's playing less than 100%. The line's not getting any better. It may just be a lost season for him in terms of upside, where at least I got hope that if they're going to give Swift more snaps, then I got that. And then Jefferson or Hill, Tyreek Hill's on pace for over 2,000 yards, and he may get it. Jefferson, they're not using him well enough in that offense. They're not pressing enough easy buttons for him, so that concerns me a bit. All right, everybody, happy Halloween. Have a great day, and we will talk soon.